goddamn laptop keyboards. Oh, I got a fucking story for you too. So you know how I have this Alienware laptop, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was having this issue, or I thought it was an issue, where when I had it unplugged, the FPS frames per second on anything I was playing would just drop from like 200 to like 10. It would just be like completely unplayable. So I called Dell about it. I get this guy, you know, whatever. Thank you for calling Dell support, blah, blah, blah. Kiss my ass. And he remotes in and he's doing all this shit. And after half an hour of like fucking around with my computer, yeah, you're going to need to reformat and reinstall Windows.
You just have to change the power settings, right?
Well, you would think. So I go into the BIOS settings and adjust those. And I go into NVIDIA control panel and I adjust those settings. And he was like, yeah, you're going to need to reformat and reinstall Windows. And I'll schedule a call back for tomorrow to see how things are going. I'm like, whatever, fine. Like, I'll play the game. Like, I'm just going to go through this process so that I can turn around at the end of the day and be like, you know what? I went through this process. He calls me back the next day after I go through all of this. And he says, yeah, I did some research and it turns out that that's actually how the computer is designed because the battery can't deliver enough power for the computer to... And I'm like, what the fuck? You had me go through all this fucking shit and then you're going to tell me, oh, it's normal. Okay, that's fine if it's normal, but just tell me that. Don't have me go through all this shit. Just tell me to dial back my graphics settings instead of having me reinstall Windows and go on this wild ass goose ass chase ass for, we'll say ass for a third time just for good measure. And it's just like, the fuck?
Wild ass, punk ass, goose ass chase.
Bitch ass, hoe ass, motherfucking ass.
Ignorant ass.
Incompetent ass, not having enough knowledge of computers ass, working at Dell ass, stupid ass.
Wait. Did he ask you if you turned it on and off?
No.
Oh, that would have been hilarious.
But it was just so painfully obvious that this guy was like, it was like as if he was reading the steps from like a book or like an online page, just telling him what to do. And this guide was telling him, instead of like messing with, you know, potential settings or drivers, it just skips all the way to fucking reformat and reinstall Windows.
That's the ultimate. Have you turned it on and off again? Have you turned your operating system off and then on again? Try that.
Yeah, I fucking did.
Dude, I'm honestly at that point with my computer where I'm like, do I just fucking reformat it to like factory settings and then update Windows 10 again?
I mean, with your issue, that's worth a shot.
I don't want to do that though. It's so much time and effort.
Listen, if Dell can take away half of my Sunday, you can throw away half of your own Sunday too.
Well, I've got like free Sundays every day for the next couple of weeks.
And we're going to talk about that right after the segue. Good afternoon and good evening wherever you're tuning in from across the country and around the world. This is the Life Midwest Podcast. Join us, a washed-up musician, a communications major, and a Army veteran, as we talk about current events that are both current and events. That's Seattle's best, Lenny Wells over there, and then we got our Thai correspondent Wes Shirley, who's apparently 2 pigeons today.
Cool, motherfucker.
I'm a goddamn bird.
Someone had a little too much coffee this morning.
I don't know. When I have coffee, it's like a bad day at the paper mill.
The paper mill?
Too much pulp.
I guess that joke only works if you like live near a paper mill and know how disgusting it can be.
I guess so.
You're talking about like the wash water that they rinse?
Yeah.
How do I not know anything about this when you two do?
You never watched How It's Made?
Not with paper, apparently.
Today on How It's Made, paper.
Well, no, I don't know that from How It's Made. I know that because there's a paper mill or at least there used to be a paper mill in Tacoma. And every summer we get what's called the Tacoma aroma. And at low tide in the Sound, there's just this like god awful stench. And it's like a mix between like wet, hot, rotting garbage, ass, dumpster fire, and like three-headed fish. And it's, lovingly, colloquially, I can't fucking say that goddamn word. It's locally known as the Tacoma aroma. And people blame it on the paper mill.
Goddamn paper mill. Shitting up the town again.
At least that's my understanding. I don't know. Are you going to tell me I'm wrong?
No, I'm going to agree with you wholeheartedly.
Oh, so it's not a repeat of the water episode. That's called a callback.
Speaking of water, welcome to another episode of Around the Water Cooler, boys. This is going to be Around the Water Cooler Part 3. Around the Water Cooler is a mini-series where we kind of have life updates, talk about ourselves, what we have going on with each other, and just, a good way for you to keep up with us if you choose to. If you care. If you don't, well, have a great week. We'll see you next week. If you do, this is episode 70. I can't believe I'm saying that this is episode 70, but here we are.
70s nuts.
Anyway, Lenny, let's start with you. I have some pretty big news to drop for us here.
Okay, so strap in, boys. You ready? Because this might take up the entire episode. Because I'm gonna bitch. Okay, so Kevin, do you mind if I kind of give our listeners a peek in behind the curtain and talk about when this is being recorded and shit like that?
Yeah, I don't give a shit. We always joke about it being live, but it's obviously not.
What? It's not live?
Anyways, okay, so we're recording this the 25th of August. And on the 19th, last Friday, I was fired from my job. Now, it's like a crazy story. So I have to set this up. So we've got I gotta think of names because I don't want to get sued for libel or slander or something. So we've got let's call this person Eric, and they are the general manager of the office I worked at. Then we'll have Patricia. Patricia is the wife of Eric, and she is the number 2 person in the office. Okay?
Number 2.
And then there's Matthew. Matthew, what was for a while my direct boss, but is also Patricia and Eric's son. Okay. And then we have Savannah, who would be the number 2 to Matthew, my boss. All right. Savannah has a twin sister, and then there's another person that I used to work with whose name was Rick. And the 3 of them were the clique. They'd been there. I think Savannah had been at that same office for 10 years. Her sister 8 or 9, and then Rick 7 or 8. So they'd all been there for a long time. They knew each other really well. They're friends inside and outside of work. And Patricia and Eric think the sun rises out of their ass. So they have a complex about them. Now, I was at that job for just a little over 2 years. And since day one, Savannah had been up my ass about everything. I didn't get any training on how their processes and paperwork were supposed to be done. I was just kind of thrown into it, right? And this is also during a time when I didn't know and that I had ADHD and was unmedicated for it. So that compounded the problem. Well, anyways, we'll move forward in time from the start of me working there and to June of last year.
I can feel it.
And in June of last year, I called Patricia. I was like, hey, I I've been doing this job in the industry for a while now, and I'd like to move out of the field and to do like estimating or like project management. Patricia goes, cool. I'll talk to Eric about it, and we'll see what happens. So the next week, Patricia calls me back up and she's like, hey, so Eric and I, we can offer you a spot as like a junior estimator. Would you want to do that? And I'm like, hell yes, sign me the fuck up. So like, great, cool. We'll talk soon about like when shit's gonna like start moving on, right? So eventually I get in touch with my direct boss, Matthew, and he's like, yeah, that'll be like at the end of summer. So end of summer last year. I'm like, all right, cool. That's great. It's like September now. I'm talking to Matthew, like, hey, so when's this gonna happen? He's like, oh, well, we have to push it back to like mid-October. Okay, mid-October rolls around, has to get pushed back to November. And at that time, I'm like, okay, so is this like just going to get pushed back to the start of the year, to the start of 2022? And he goes, yeah, unfortunately, corporate has like on a hiring freeze, and they're also on a pay scale freeze. So like no one's getting promotions, or no one's getting like promotions, no one's getting pay bumps, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand that because of the pandemic. Well, first of the year rolls around, and I get set up with training in some estimation software that's like an industry standard, and that starts in February. So I do the training in one class in February. I'm supposed to do the next one in March. March rolls around for class number 2, and I get told that I can't do that class because my direct boss, Matthew, is out of town for a couple of weeks. And according to Patricia and Savannah, we don't have enough people to run the department. If Savannah's taking over his job, we need like more people in the field. I'm like, okay, it's kind of bullshit, but whatever. So it gets pushed to April. April rolls around. I have to do the class, but also like do like field work at the same time. So this class requires, I was doing it on a laptop with a separate monitor and like in like an office environment. So now I'm doing it on a laptop and on like my work phone while being in the field at the same time, which is already hell enough. But I do it. I pass flying colors. I'm the fucking best. And so I talked to my boss. I'm like, hey, so is there going to be more like training, or like, when's this, when am I going to start actually like doing like whatever these duties are? And he's like, well, we'll talk about it soon. I'm like, that's not what I wanted to hear. So throughout like the rest of the time I'm at this place, like the job duties, what I would be doing keep changing. And when I'm going to start doing it also keeps changing. So now that gets us to mid-July. And it was like the second week in July. It's like the 13th or so. My boss, Matthew, calls a meeting with everybody in our department and goes, hey, just want you to know, I put in my 2 weeks. My last day is actually this coming Friday. So 2 days from now. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh shit, this is not good news, like at all. Because then his next words are, and Savannah's going to be taking over my job. She's going to run our department. And now I'm like, really, like, I'm fucked. So I start like, applying for jobs and shit. And so that Friday, my boss's last day, I have a meeting with him and Patricia, his mom, number 2 in our office. And the conversation goes basically like my boss going, hey, Leonard's worked really hard. He's proven that he can do, this job. So I really think you should get it. And his mom is talking to me a little bit. And she goes, well, our company's never really had like a great pathway to advance or like getting people like those opportunities. I was like, and I interrupted her and I go, so are you telling me like there's not even like a roadmap for like when, like for like more professional development or when I would be actually starting this thing that you offered me? She goes, no. And she started trying to talk. I'm like, wait, hold on. Before you say anything else, I want to know like when a good time to come back and address this was, because you offered this to me like a year ago. And she's like, well, let's give Savannah like a couple weeks to like, you know, settle into her new role, and then we'll address it like a couple weeks from now. So time goes by, I get COVID. So like that meeting keeps getting like pushed and pushed and pushed. Well, a week ago from today, the 18th we had like a summer like fun day, like company picnic sort of thing. Which I elected not to go to, not because like I was like salty or anything, but like I just had like work that I knew I had to do. I was supposed to be on call, and I didn't want to be like 2 hours from the office, like when a new job came in. So on the 15th, I had sent Patricia another email. I was like, hey, just want to know like when you can wrap back around and talk about what's going on. Didn't hear from her until the 18th. She goes, you're going to have a meeting tomorrow morning with Eric. She goes, because I don't come in on Fridays. I'm like, all right, cool. That's unexpected, but that's fine with me. So I come into work the next day. Eventually, you know, the big boss, Eric, gets in, and I go up to his office, and it's not just him in the office, but it's someone else that works. We'll call him Chris for now. And Chris is in the office, and Chris's job isn't necessarily HR, but it's like HR adjacent. We don't have like a dedicated HR person in our office. And I'm like, why the fuck is he here? That doesn't make any sense. So boss closes the door. He sits down. He goes, so, you know, I've been talking with Savannah and Patricia, and we've, you know, everybody knows that your heart just isn't in the field work. And he goes, you know, you and I have talked about that. And I know there have been like a couple like write-ups or something, which, side note, there hasn't been. I was never written up once while I worked there. Was never put on like an employee improvement plan, anything like that. And he goes, so, you know, I don't have an estimator position open. I can't offer you like an office position. So since we know like your heart's just not in it, I think it's just best if we part ways. I'm like, what? What? Just totally blindsided by this. So I got railroaded. So, and in that meeting I had with my previous boss and his mom, I brought up, because I had talked with my previous boss about Savannah before, and I had told him in the previous year that I was going to file a workplace harassment with HR if he didn't fucking straighten their shit up. And then, so when we had that meeting, I'm like, look, like, I'm really like concerned about her taking over the department and being my boss. And Patricia goes, she's like, what, are you worried that like, you know, in a month they're just like going to fire you out of the blue because they don't like you? And I'm like, well, I hope they wouldn't do that. And that's not what I'm saying that is going to happen. But I mean, like, I would be lying if I said I hadn't thought about it. I just know, you know, I just want it to be known that there's been issues in the past and that this makes me uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, well, we've known them long enough to know that, you know, there shouldn't be any issues and yada, yada, yada. And then literally like a month later, they fucking fired me because I don't know why, honestly. Like I didn't get a concrete reason. And come to find out that Savannah was going to promote her twin sister into her old job as the assistant manager, and they're going to give their other friend Chris the job that I was supposed to be getting. So not only was I lied to for like a year, like 14 months basically, I got just like blindsided out of nowhere out of a job.
Wow.
Are you collecting unemployment on them assholes?
I will be collecting unemployment. It works kind of weird here in Washington, the way like you have to file and stuff. So that will be a thing. And I called, so that day, so on Friday last week, I called the corporate HR I was like, look, I would like any information you can have, you have that you can give me on my firing, like any write-ups, any statements and reasons as to why. And like, well, the paperwork hasn't been filed with us yet, but as soon as we get it, we'll let you know. So I'm gonna have to call them tomorrow and be like, yeah, where the fuck is this shit? Because there's a really good chance. I mean, I don't want to. Maybe I shouldn't say this like on the podcast, but like, there's a possibility that like, just from talking with some of Brittany's friends who work in HR, that I could have a case for a wrongful termination lawsuit. Which, to be clear, like,
sounds like it.
So to be clear, like Washington is like an at-will work state, but that also like doesn't track if like there have been like complaints against people. Like it could be viewed as like retaliation. Anyways, and I don't necessarily like want to do that, but like it really just depends on like what is in that, you know, that personnel file that I can get and like what they can give me. Cause it's like, it's such bullshit. But there is a silver lining. So that Thursday, because I had been like shopping around, I had actually been given like a job offer somewhere else that I was just like on the fence of like accepting, because I was trying to do the right thing and like, you know, have like whatever this meeting was like originally in my mind supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I should have just, you know, gone fuck it and gone Wes's like anti-work route and just like fucked them like as hard as I could, because that's what they did to me in the end.
Zero loyalty to businesses is my philosophy. Fuck them.
Yeah, Wes is 100% right. You can't, at the end of the day, you can't break your own back for a company that's not going to do the same for you.
No, and you guys are like 100% right. The only like caveat I have to that is like the business that I work in is like everybody knows everybody. So like the right word to the right people could just like blackball me out of like my job field for.
Yeah, that's tough.
You know, so that's like the only reason I didn't go scorched earth, because like I could have, and it would have definitely like felt good to do it, but I also could have like fucked myself in the process. So
yeah, sometimes it's not worth burning the bridge.
And then another caveat with no loyalty to employers is like I'm also pro people, so like you have to consider who you're fucking over in the process of scorched earth.
Yeah. So that's how my week went.
Wes, I know that's quite a thing to follow up, but what do you got for us this week? What's going on?
I'm not only a Thai correspondent these days, I'm also an English teacher of sorts.
Nani?
Nani?
So I teach English conversation to Thai young adults, and it's gaining a little bit of traction. I actually have someone else reaching out to me looking for English practice. And it's not like I don't read from a book or anything. Basically, I just do conversation prompts and fill them in on grammar where they're missing it, and boost their vocabulary by saying words and then giving them kind of like if there's any words you don't understand, just stop me right there. We're going to write that word down and I'll revisit it and reframe it and use it with other vocab. And basically through repetition and through becoming familiar with these words, you're going to become more fluent. My wife's sister actually runs a language school in several parts of the world, like in the UK and in Hungary where she lives, and I believe somewhere in Thailand as well. And she reached out to me, hey, I have a couple students that don't have a teacher. Do you want to get started on this? And I'm like, yes, right away, please. I need money. So like the next day I started teaching.
That's interesting because like I remember like we had a conversation a while back that you like did not want to do that.
So she's located in Hungary and she like is a specialist in it. So she charges kind of like private rates, whatever she wants. And if I was to like go to, let's say like a high school here or like an international school, I would be making the equivalent of like maybe $8 an hour, $7 an hour in the US.
Okay.
But I'm actually making comparable. I'm making more than what I was making in the US, even accounting for like bonuses and whatnot.
Nice.
So I don't work as many hours. Right now, I'm only at 10 hours a week, or 12 hours a week, which isn't really sustainable in the short term. But with traction and more people wanting to practice English with me, I think I can get that up to maybe 20 or 30, which would then pay my bills.
That's pretty neat. Is that is English speaking like that like in like high demand in Thailand?
Definitely. So my class focuses mostly on business conversation. Most people in Thailand know some degree of English, unless you're like from the boonies. You probably speak English better than a lot of native speakers, or maybe not speak it better, but understand it to a grammatical level and like know the rules better because you studied it in school, which I think is probably the case in most places. Like even in Japan, even if they couldn't speak English, they could read it and understood the grammar behind it. So it's in high demand because like the whole world is becoming English speaking. It's like the business language, and so we do like business prompts. I had us start a think tank in yesterday's class. Basically, we're designing a car that teaches you English, and it makes them think in a whole bunch of different ways. Like, what words can I use? Okay, sound system, stereo, speakers, smart implements, just like words you wouldn't normally say in normal conversation. I'm trying to get my students to say like during these think tank processes, or we do role play. So that's a type of role play. Um, but then I'll like share a YouTube video. Like we watched a video of like why Keanu Reeves is so, or looks like he exudes so much Zen. And it was brought by one of the students. So I'm like, F it, we're going to play this and then learn words from it. And everyone seems to have a lot of fun. So maybe word of mouth will come along and I'll get me some more students.
Is the curriculum like you said it's your sister-in-law?
Yeah, she runs a language school, but
Does she like plan out the curriculum for you, or does she just like throw you some people and like here like just talk to them?
yeah, basically I was throwing some people. I met up with one of them in person the day after I talked with her. Like we went to a coffee shop and had our first class in person, because I was in Bangkok at the time and he lives in Bangkok. And that started it off, and he seemed super interested from that point. And then another student joined online the next day, and I zero direction really, which is fine with me because like I'm not great at following directions. So if you just like give me free reign, I can do some creative stuff, and I think it'll be successful. But yeah, it's a learning process. I've never actually taught in any professional capacity before. I did briefly go to school for education, but then quickly changed to communications. So I have like just the smallest training in education. But like I learned some of the important things like total recall response, basically using hand gestures and like really enunciating clearly, and mnemonic devices, bringing things back to relatable content, making it easier to remember. So I implement standard practices, but I don't actually have any like curriculum or real guidance. It's just, what are we going to learn today? All right, F it. Watch this YouTube video and we'll learn some words, and then we'll role play.
That's cool.
So are you like taking like do you like keep like a I guess like a notes as you go along, so like maybe you can like plan like out like different lessons? Like are you at that point yet, or are you still just kind of like in the deep?
I'm still a little in the deep, but I have gotten to a kind of a momentum where we use line chat as our teaching platform. So it's not as good as Zoom or like Google Classrooms, but it is free and it's easy to use. And I just use our line group chat that I say, hey, I'm starting class in 15 minutes in. And Yui's sister, who gave me the position, is also in that group chat. So she gets to monitor what I'm doing in real time. But I post everything I'm saying in there, not only so they're able to, like if I say a new word and someone's like, Nani? I go into the line chat, post that word, and then write examples. So like one of the words was rapport, a very common word you'll hear surrounding business. I'm like, with your clients, you must build rapport. If you go up to a random person and say, hey, buddy, and give them a hug, they might be weirded out because you haven't built enough rapport with that person to do such a thing. So as I'm going, I'm like in role playing or in videos, these words will come up and I will give examples in line. And then the next week I'll bring them back up. Like, hey, so do we remember what rapport means? And it's not report, the word with a T at the end. It's some weird French shit. It's rapport. And I don't actually know if report comes from French, but I think it does because it has a silent T at the end. And just things to help them remember it. And then as far as talking goes, I try not to talk at them too much because it's their conversation practice. I really just give them prompts and ask them to talk with me.
Has Yui's sister, like, in the course of monitoring what you're doing, like, smacked you down and be like, no? Or, like, after you're, like, a class or whatever is, like, done and she, like, pulled you aside and, like, giving you, like, pointers?
Nothing yet. She's given some positive feedback in the form of like line stickers that have like thumbs up and stuff. Like yesterday in class, the word tractor came up because we were talking about cars, designing an English speaking car, and one of the students like, let's make it a Lamborghini. And then I'm like a Lamborghini tractor, and I had to explain what a tractor was, so I posted the song "She Think My Tractor Sexy." And she posted a thumbs up smiley face to that.
Is music, when bringing up that that song, does music come up like pretty regularly as like ways to like find like new words or?
Definitely. So on the first class, I really had no idea what I was doing, so I posted like a 10-second clip of a TED Talk, or maybe 20-second clip of a TED Talk that just talks about like inspiration and like being humble and being successful and stuff like that. And then when we're discussing that, a lot of words came up that were like in really old classic songs. So like imagine Motown, doo-wop, or like even before that, like some bluesy, like pre-rock blues. And I just posted a whole bunch of really easy songs. So like Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding, and I posted, it's not really in that genre, but Wake Up Sleepy Jean by the Monkees. Just really easy songs that are like rhythmic, somewhat childish in nature, things that you can like listen to and know all the words really quick, which gives a little bit of grammar structure as well.
What about Nicki Minaj's Stupid Hoe?
We're not quite there, but like they listen to that kind of stuff. Cardi B was mentioned during a class once, so
That's cool. That's cool.
Do they want to know what WAP was?
I want you to park that Big Mac truck right in this little garage. we haven't got that deep, but yeah, at one point I'm sure we will analyze wet ass pussy. It's business important.
You should definitely drop in some. Oh, Kevin, I apologize. This is going to be a rough edit. Anyways, you should definitely try to incorporate some like old school jazz, like Louis Jordan, in there. Get some culture into the class.
What if you introduced jazz to them, like with scatting? Yeah, exactly. And they were like, what does that mean, Wes? And you're just like, it means be true to yourself.
Why did you speak in that accent, Kevin?
Because it is the sound of someone who knows what they're talking about.
Someone who exudes zen.
Well, that sounded nothing like Keanu Reeves. I'm really good at this callback thing. I don't know if you've noticed.
Good night, everybody.
You should be a English conversation teacher. That total recall response.
I feel like if I was to do like what you're doing, I would either be like amazingly good at it or just dog shit. I'd probably swear too much. Have you caught yourself like swearing like on accident at these people?
Not necessarily on accident. But I have caught myself, like I go down rabbit holes when I'm giving examples. Like the word rub came up, and
Yeah.
I'm like, so rub, like you can rub a belly, and then I had to explain that belly is just like a stomach, but like a cuter way to say it, or it could be like a big belly, like the Buddha belly. And I'm going through all these examples. I'm like, but you can also rub somebody the wrong way, and like imagine you pet the dog in the wrong direction and you're rubbing them the wrong way. And then I had to stop myself from giving the example of like rubber, I barely know her. And then liquor, I barely know her, like all the words that end in so I ended up giving like I said the word banger when I'm talking about one of the songs I posted. I'm like, this one's an absolute banger, and they're like, banga. I'm like, banger, like ER, like her, like banger.
So
they're like 19 and 25 years old, so like I'm not ruining the youth or anything, but it's more than I want to explain in a classroom setting.
So does slang like come up? Like, is that something that you guys have to like? I don't want to say like focus on, but is it something that like you're like cognizant of and like address?
Yeah. If I say slang or they say slang, I address it because we're practicing business English. So like you wouldn't say "sup, bro" like in business English, but like when I do the role playing, I might act like that. And I'll be like, oh, so you wouldn't want to say this, but like imagine you're encountering a new coworker, and you're like in the break room, and they're like, "Sup, bro?" And they're like, "Bro?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like short for brother. You say it like as a term of endearment for someone." It's like they use it in Thailand too. Like if you call someone P in front of their name, like just the letter P or maybe PI or PEE. I don't know how to spell it. You'll be like, "Oh, P Wes," which just means like big brother Wes or something, or like bro.
Oh, okay. Not that they want to pee on you.
So maybe they do. I don't know. I don't ask those types of questions. We don't want those answers.
Kevin, what do you got going on?
Oh man. All right. So the house hunting thing has just, I think I mentioned this on the show before. We found a house. We had the offer accepted. There's just been a lot of back and forth. Every single piece of the puzzle has just been not a roadblock, but just a speed bump. And it's just every time something comes up, we just kind of shit our pants and we're like, okay, is this it? Is this where we lose the house? Is this where we just have to like fuck off and start all over again? And it's just very nerve-wracking, from like inspection to appraisal to, a repair that we wanted based on what the inspections found, and the owner not really wanting to give us anything. And, to top it all off, and by the time this episode airs, it's going to be too late for her to back out of the deal. But her name, the seller, like the owner, her name is Karen. And I don't want to say that she's being a Karen about it. Sure, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah, she's being a Karen about it. She's being a goddamn Karen about it, okay? And, like, it's just, she didn't even want to, like, a lot of the like appliances and the units in the house are old. Like, that's really the only drawback. Like the AC is from 2001, the water heater's from 2011, the furnace is from 98.
Ooh.
And so we wanted to get like a home warranty on it just to cover our ass on those things. It's like $500 and she didn't want to do it. So imagine when the appraisal comes back less, granted it's only $5,000, but imagine when the appraisal comes back $5,000 less than the asking price, which is, what the price that you agreed upon. And, this person didn't even want to give $500 and now you're worried about $5,000. Like that's just a pretty big fucking deal. You guys know that Vine, where it's like things are working out. Don't get me wrong. But it's like every time there's like, what's that Vine where it's like, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. And like that is every step of the fucking way so far. And everything's going to work out, I think, because we've been able to resolve like anything that we've like come up to at this point. But it's just, yeah.
Sorry, I'm having to mute myself. The baby's like losing her shit right now.
We should do a super edit of children noises.
Today's episode is brought to you by
Commence metal music.
Tears of Children. Lenny is not amused.
No, my mic is muted. I'm laughing. Don't trust me.
There really isn't much that we would need to do in the house aside from the appliances and the just kind of making it our own. But I think we would probably tear out. We would do some minor stuff like replace some of the dead, rotten boards on the back deck. The pool needs a new ladder, a stair ladder.
There's a pool.
There is a pool, fenced in yard for the boys.
How do you forget about that? That's like the first thing you need to mention.
Dude, like when I was Kevin, when you sent me that Zillow listing, I went over with Brittany. I was like, God damn, there's a fucking pool. You got to redo those cabinets though. The kitchen needs a lot of work.
The cabinets actually look a lot nicer in person, but I will say that the floor has definitely got to go. Yeah, this is disgusting. It's really bringing everything down, and the appliances aren't helping either. So yeah, the appliances and the floor really make everything else just, kind of even look even worse. But it's something we can make our own and kind of grow into and move into, as we have, kids down the line and things like that, versus getting into like a similar size 2-bedroom, 2-bath like we have now and just outgrowing it in the short term. And then just Ashley has this big fear, and I have the fear too of like having to move while she's pregnant. Like I don't want to have to do that. So
you planning them babies?
I mean, eventually, yeah. I don't think it's in the immediate future, but yeah.
For sure.
If Ashley has anything to say about it, it's not at least for like a year and a half, because she's got to fit into the wedding dress.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more of when Ashley's ready. That's when it's going to happen. Thanks, guys. Can always count on you. And we, the hosts, know that we can always count on you to support the Life Midwest in a plethora of ways. If you're looking for free ways to support us, you can leave us a review or a rating on your favorite listening app or platform. It really helps us out, drives the ratings up, helps us get noticed. It does cost money to run and produce the show. If you'd like to give us a donation at paypal.me/thelifemidwest. You can also email us at support@thelifemidwest.com. No new emails to read this week, but we'll always read them on the air if we get any. And finally, you can check out the website that Wes does a great job of running at thelifemidwest.com. If none of those fit your fancy, you can always interact with our social media manager, Lenny, at any of our major social platforms, including TikTok now, at The Life Midwest.
Get at it.
And call your mom.
Call your fucking mom.
Lenny, who do you want to shout out this week?
I have to. This is what I normally do anyways, but I have to shout out Brittany right now because my children are just giving her a run for their money. We're recording at an odd time than we normally do, so they're especially pissed off. The little one is teething 2 sets of teeth, is not sleeping. My son is just his usual crazy self. So Brittany's straight up not having a good time right now. So we're gonna finish recording this. I'm gonna get off and just try and survive. It's like that final mission in Halo Reach: objective survive. So I want to shout out Brittany for dealing with the fucking typhoon hurricane that is my children right now, and not yelling at me while we're recording. Thank you for yelling at me later in the future.
Wes, how about you?
Big shout out to my wife, Yui, just because, why not? I actually kicked her out of her room today so I could record. So she is currently recording in her niece's room. And big shout out to her sister. I really appreciate the teaching opportunity. Going to get me some experiences and, importantly, some monies. Call your goddamn mothers. Call your fucking mothers. Call your moms. I don't know why we have to be profane about it, but fucking do it. Call your moms. It's ridiculous.
Because it ain't working, that's why.
You're a grown-ass adult. Call your mom. Shout out to you two. I enjoyed both of your around the water cooler segments today. Good shit, guys. Good shit.
Kevin, your shout outs. Good sir.
Yeah, I want to shout out my amazing, wonderful, beautiful future fiance Ashley, or future wife. Oh my god.
Hold on, Wes. I do have to say, like, I know that like Yui's sister is like watching you in real time, but you have to like find a way to like prank them, to like tell them like something means something like that it doesn't, but in a funny, non-destructive way. Like, you just can't pass up that opportunity. At least I know I wouldn't be able to.
Tell them that Dumbo is named Flappy in the U.S. until another person from the U.S. comes and ruins it.
Yeah.
What do you mean? That's Dumbo.
Yeah. Anyways, I've been thinking about that ever since you started talking about it, and I forgot to say it because I'm not taking my meds right now because I have to ration them because I don't have healthcare right now.
That's fucking terrible. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to drag it. I didn't mean to drag this down. We were just wrapping up.
Fucking rationing. God damn you, U.S. You suck. No, well, don't put that in there.
I have like a month's supply because like I got it like refilled like 2 weeks ago, I think I want to say. So like I was like wrapping up like the last couple days that I had from the previous prescription when I got fired. So I'm gonna need to use that when I'm like working again, so I don't like look like a massive tool. And it's another shout out to Brittany for this because like I know it's like killing her, like how dumb I am when I'm not like medicated. I know it's like super rough for her because like it's rough for me. So, anyways, yeah, the U.S. does kind of suck sometimes, especially when it comes to healthcare. So you can leave that in.
You should come to Thailand. You can go to the doctor and the pharmacy for like under $20. Scheduled the same day.
Can I just like send you some money so you can mail me prescription drugs? I'm just kidding.
I'm not sure how legal it is to do that. But
FBI, ATF, that's a joke. I'm already on lists. So you don't have to put me on another one. It's a joke.
Before we further incriminate ourselves, we're going to get the fuck out of here. And you can tune in next Saturday and every Saturday here on the Live Midwest podcast. Call your mom, take care, and have a good one.
Deuces.
Bye.